To our wonderful viewers at Infidelity Tales Lab, welcome and thank you for joining us. Your presence keeps us motivated. Quick question before we start. What part of the world are you watching from? Now, let's dive into today's story. The fluorescent lights of New Hope Youth Center hummed overhead as Hubert Salazar organized the stack of case files on his desk. At 35, his dark hair had begun showing traces of gray at the temples, earned from years of dedication to Milwaukee's troubled teens. The worn leather chair creaked as he leaned back, rubbing his tired eyes after another long day. A knock on his office door made him look up. Marcus Thompson, one of the center's residents, stood in the doorway, his lanky 16-year-old frame nearly filling it. "Mr. S., got a minute?" Marcus fidgeted with the sleeve of his hoodie, a nervous habit Hubert had noticed during their counseling sessions. "Always got time for you, Marcus. Come on in." Hubert gestured to the chair across from his desk. The office was small but welcoming, with walls covered in photos of success stories, former residents at their graduations, job placements, and family reunions. Marcus sat down, his eyes darting around before settling on the floor. "It's about Mrs. S.," he started, then stopped, chewing his lower lip. "Jen? What about her?" Hubert's attention sharpened. His wife rarely visited the center these days, citing her increasing workload at the tech company. "She dropped off your lunch yesterday, right?" Marcus looked up, meeting Hubert's eyes. "I was shooting hoops in the parking lot and—" He trailed off again. "Go on, Marcus. You know this is a safe space. I saw her with someone. That tall dude who sometimes picks her up. They were by his car, and—" Marcus swallowed hard. "They kissed, Mr. S. Not like a friend kiss either." The words hit Hubert like a punch to the gut, but years of professional experience helped him maintain his composed expression. "Are you sure about what you saw, Marcus?" "I wouldn't make this up, Mr. S. Not about you." Marcus leaned forward, his voice earnest. "Remember what you always tell us? Truth might hurt, but lies destroy. I couldn't keep this inside." Hubert nodded slowly, his mind racing to the tall figure Marcus mentioned. Mitch Eaton, his college roommate, now worked with Jen at TechVance Solutions. They'd all spent countless evenings together, sharing dinners and memories. "Thank you for telling me, Marcus. I appreciate your honesty." Hubert managed a small smile. "How about we talk about your college applications now?" That evening, Hubert arrived home to find Jen in their kitchen, chopping vegetables for dinner. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a neat ponytail, her corporate attire replaced with comfortable home clothes. "You're late again," she said without looking up. The knife hit the cutting board with rhythmic precision. "Had to finish some paperwork." Hubert hung his jacket by the door, studying his wife's profile. "How was your day?" "The usual. Mitch and I had to prepare for next week's training seminar." She scraped the vegetables into a pan. "He asked about you, by the way. Says you never join us for lunch anymore. The center keeps me busy." Hubert moved to the fridge, noting how Jen shifted slightly away as he passed. Speaking of Mitch, Marcus mentioned seeing him at the center yesterday. The knife paused briefly before resuming its rhythm. "Oh, I dropped off your lunch, but I didn't see him there." The lie hung in the air between them, heavy and undeniable. Hubert grabbed a beer and closed the fridge. "Must have been someone else then. You're too good for your own good. You know that?" Jen turned, pressing a quick kiss to his cheek, but her eyes slid past his. Always believing the best in people. That night, lying awake in bed, Hubert replayed years of moments in his mind. The gradually shortened kisses, the increasing late nights at work, the way Jen's phone always faced down now. The signs had been there, he realized, but like so many of his teens' parents, he'd chosen not to see them. Sunday dinner at the McKee household had been a tradition since Hubert was a child. The familiar scent of his mother's pot roast filled the air as he helped set the table, while his father Bob argued politics with Claire in the living room. "Jen couldn't make it again?" Sonia McKee's voice carried a strange note as she checked the roast. "Working late. Big project coming up." The excuse fell hollow on Hubert's tongue. Claire appeared in the kitchen doorway, her dark hair matching their mother's. "That's the third Sunday in a row, isn't it?" "She's been busy." Hubert arranged the silverware with precise movements. "The tech industry doesn't sleep. Neither does betrayal," Claire muttered, then quickly turned away to adjust the place setting. Their father entered, his newspaper tucked under his arm. Speaking of tech companies, I ran into Mitch at the golf club yesterday. He's doing well for himself these days. Bob, Sonia's tone carried a warning. Not now. Hubert looked between his parents, noting the quick glances they exchanged. What about Mitch? Nothing important. Bob McKee settled into his chair. Just business talk. Say, Sonia, didn't you want to tell Hubert about our trip? Oh, yes. His mother brightened with obvious relief at the change of subject. We're going to Vegas next month. For a conference. You should join us, sweetheart. Take a break from the center. Claire snorted into her water glass. A conference, right? It could be fun, Sonia pressed on. Make it a family trip. You work too hard, Hubert. I'll think about it. Hubert served himself pot roast, noting how his mother's hand trembled slightly as she passed the gravy. Though someone needs to keep the center running, Jen seemed interested when I mentioned it, his mother added. Though she thought you might be too busy. You discussed this with Jen? Hubert's fork paused halfway to his mouth. She stopped by last week to borrow a recipe. Sonia busied herself with her plate. Such a thoughtful girl, always wanting to cook for you. Claire's chair scraped back suddenly. I need air. She stormed out onto the back porch, leaving a tense silence behind. I should check on her? Hubert moved to stand, but his father's hand on his arm stopped him. Let her be, son. She's just stressed about work. Later, Hubert found Claire sitting on the old porch swing, their childhood refuge for difficult conversations. The evening air carried the scent of their mother's roses. Want to tell me what that was about? He sat beside her, the swing creaking familiarly. Claire wrapped her arms around herself. I can't, Hubert. I want to, but I can't. Can or won't? Both. She turned to him, moonlight revealing tears in her eyes. Just pay attention, okay? To everything. And know that I love you, big brother. Claire, you're scaring me. Good. She wiped her eyes. Maybe fear will make you see what love's been blinding you to. The morning sun cast long shadows across Hubert's office when his phone rang. Sally Newton's name flashed on the screen, an unusual sight. Mitch's girlfriend of 2 years rarely called him directly. Hubert? We need to talk. Her voice trembled with barely controlled anger. About Jen and Mitch, but not over the phone. Can I come to the center? Before he could respond, rapid footsteps approached his office. The door burst open, revealing Jen. Her makeup was smeared, tears cutting tracks through her foundation, but her eyes blazed with an almost manic intensity. Don't listen to her. Jen's voice cracked. Whatever Sally tells you, it's lies. Hubert slowly lowered his phone. How did you know Sally was calling? Because she's trying to ruin everything. Jen slammed the door behind her. She's jealous and bitter and telling the truth? Hubert's calm tone contrasted sharply with his wife's hysteria. The truth. Jen laughed, a harsh, broken sound. You want the truth? Fine. She stalked forward, planting both hands on his desk. Your perfect college buddy Mitch isn't just my coworker. We've been married for months. Your parents were there in Vegas. They signed as witnesses. The room seemed to tilt. Hubert gripped the edge of his desk. What? Oh, it gets better? Jen's smile was almost cruel. They're hosting our public wedding this weekend. The invitations went out last month. To everyone but you, of course. Even Claire knows. Everyone knows, Hubert. Everyone but you, because you're too wrapped up in saving everyone else to see your own life falling apart. Through the window, Hubert could see his parents' car pulling into the parking lot, their faces ashen with the realization that their secrets were finally exposed. Marcus stood by the basketball court, his phone lowered to his side, a witness once again to the unraveling of his mentor's life. Why? The question came out barely above a whisper. Jen's expression softened for a moment, almost pitying. Because you live in a world of second chances and redemption stories, Hubert. But some of us want more than just doing good. We want to do well. She turned toward the door, her hand resting on the handle. The Vegas wedding was real. The witnesses were real. And this weekend, everyone will know. She paused, looking back at him one last time. You're too good for your own good, Hubert. That's what I've been trying to tell you all along. The door closed behind her with a soft click, leaving Hubert alone with the weight of revelation. Through his office window, he watched his wife walk to Mitch's waiting car, saw his parents' conflicted expressions as they stood in the parking lot, noticed Marcus's protective stance as he watched it all unfold. The center's bell rang, signaling the start of another day. Down the hall, he could hear teens arriving for their morning programs, their voices carrying the promise of futures yet to be written. Despite everything, or perhaps because of it, Hubert knew his place was here, helping others navigate their own paths through betrayal toward truth. Marcus appeared in the doorway. "For what it's worth, Mr. S., we all knew something was wrong. We just didn't know how to tell you." "Sometimes," Hubert replied, "the hardest truths come from the most unexpected places." He stood straightening his tie. "Let's get to work. These kids need us more than ever now." As he walked into the hallway, Hubert carried with him the weight of betrayal and the strength of truth. Act 1 of his life story was ending, but in its closing chapters lay the seeds of something new, a testament to the resilience of the human heart and the power of chosen family over the lies that seek to destroy it. Sally Newton sat in her car outside New Hope Youth Center, one hand resting protectively over her barely visible pregnancy, the other clutching a manila envelope. Through the windshield, she watched Jen storm out of the building and speed away in Mitch's car. The moment she'd been dreading and planning for had arrived sooner than expected. Inside her laptop bag, months of investigation sat organized in meticulous folders. What had started as simple suspicion about her boyfriend's late nights had led her down a rabbit hole of corporate fraud that threatened to destroy not just a relationship, but an entire community's trust. The center's front desk receptionist smiled as Sally entered. "Mr. Salazar is in his office. Rough morning up there." "I know." Sally adjusted her press badge, tucked discreetly inside her blazer. "I'm afraid it's about to get rougher." Hubert stood at his window when she entered, his shoulders carrying the weight of fresh betrayal. "Sally, I guess you heard about the Vegas wedding?" "That's just the surface, Hubert." She placed the envelope on his desk. "There's something you need to know about me first. I'm not just Mitch's girlfriend. I'm an investigative journalist with the Milwaukee Sentinel." Hubert turned, his expression shifting from personal pain to professional wariness. "And you're here because 6 months ago, I noticed discrepancies in TechVant's charitable giving reports." Sally opened her laptop, pulling up spreadsheets and transaction records. "Your wife and Mitch haven't just been having an affair. They've been running an elaborate embezzlement scheme, siphoning money from the company's philanthropic division." "That's a serious accusation." Hubert sat heavily in his chair. "It gets worse." Sally touched her stomach unconsciously. "The money they've been stealing?" A significant portion was earmarked for this center. Hubert's face paled. He reached for a drawer, pulling out the center's financial reports. "Our funding has been decreasing. We've had to cut 3 programs in the past year. I thought it was just the economy." "It wasn't." Sally turned her laptop screen toward him. "Look at these transactions. Every month, donations meant for New Hope were diverted through a series of shell companies. Mitch set them up, but Jen's signature is all over the paperwork." The revelation hit Hubert like a physical blow. His hands trembled as he compared the documents. "These dates, they match exactly when we had to cut our after-school tutoring program. 20 kids lost their safe space because we couldn't afford to keep the lights on. There's more." Sally's voice softened. "That Vegas marriage? It's not legal. Mitch is still legally married to someone in Arizona. A marriage he conveniently forgot to mention to me, too." A knock at the door interrupted them. Karen Huynh, the center's accountant, stood in the doorway, her usually quiet demeanor replaced with fierce determination. "Mr. Salazar? I've been tracking these missing donations for months." She approached the desk, her own stack of papers in hand. "I knew something was wrong when the numbers stopped matching our grant applications, but I needed proof before I came forward." Sally straightened. "You have documentation?" Karen nodded. "Every transaction, every discrepancy. I've been building a case." She looked at Hubert apologetically. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner, but I needed to be certain. These kids, they deserve better than to be victims of corporate fraud." Claire McPherson paced her apartment, phone pressed to her ear. "Mom, they know everything. You need to come clean before. She stopped listening. No, you don't understand. This isn't just about Jen and Mitch's affair anymore. Across town, in their suburban home, Bob and Sonia McKee sat surrounded by investment paperwork, their faces ashen as they realized the full scope of their mistake. He promised to triple our retirement savings, Bob whispered, hands shaking as he reviewed bank statements. Said it was a special investment opportunity, just for family. We wanted to believe him. Sonia dabbed at her eyes. He seemed so successful, so sure. And Jen, she made it all sound so perfect. The doorbell rang. Claire stood on their porch, her expression a mix of anger and concern. We need to talk about what you've done. Inside, the family confrontation unfolded like a slow-motion car crash. Claire paced the living room while her parents sat on their familiar couch, now seeming smaller under the weight of their choices. How much? Claire demanded. How much did you give them? Bob's voice cracked. All of it. The retirement fund, the house equity. He looked down at his hands. Even the college fund we started for your kids. Jesus, Dad. Claire sank into an armchair. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I knew about the affair months ago, but this... They threatened us, Sonia burst out. Not directly, but Mitch kept talking about how terrible it would be if someone reported certain tax irregularities. How it could ruin the whole family. So you kept quiet while they married in Vegas? While they planned this sham of a public wedding? Claire's voice rose. While they stole from children? We didn't know about the youth center funds, Bob protested weakly. But you knew something was wrong. Claire stood abruptly. You knew enough to hide it from Hubert. To play along with their charade. A notification pinged on Claire's phone. A text from Karen at the youth center. Evidence compiled. FBI has been notified. Things are moving quickly. Get your papers together, Claire told her parents. All of them. Bank statements, investment documents, emails from Mitch, everything. The FBI will want to see them. The FBI? Sonia swayed slightly. Oh God, what have we done? The question is, what are you going to do now? Claire's voice softened slightly. Hubert's going to need to hear the whole truth from you. Not from investigators, not from me, from his parents. At the youth center, Karen worked late into the evening, organizing years of financial records. Her desk lamp cast a small circle of light in the darkened office as she created copies of every suspicious transaction. You don't have to stay, she told Hubert, who sat nearby reviewing the evidence. This might take hours. These are my kids they stole from. Hubert's voice was quiet but firm. I need to understand every detail. A message from Sally appeared on his screen. Meeting with FBI tomorrow morning. They want to talk to Karen too. This is bigger than we thought. The week before the planned public wedding unfolded like a carefully orchestrated symphony of chaos. Sally's investigation reached the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit, triggering a cascade of events that would shatter the carefully constructed facade of success and legitimacy. At TechVan Solutions, the board of directors received Karen's evidence in a sealed envelope. The emergency meeting lasted well into the night. Their conference room, lights visible from the street like a beacon of impending doom. Meanwhile, the teens at New Hope Youth Center had their own response brewing. Marcus, still recording everything on his phone, had gathered a group in the recreation room. They took our tutoring program, he told the assembled teens. They took Ms. Rodriguez's art therapy class. They took the college prep workshops. And for what? So they could have fancy cars and Vegas weddings? We should tell our stories, suggested Sarah, a 14-year-old who'd found refuge in a now-canceled art program. Show everyone what we lost. The teens worked through the evening, creating social media posts that put faces and stories to the fraud's impact. They shared photos of empty rooms that once held classes, of younger siblings now without after-school care, of college acceptance letters that might never arrive without the prep programs. Their hashtag New Hope Lost Hope began trending locally, then regionally. Local news stations picked up the story, connecting it to rumors of corporate fraud at TechVance. Across town, Claire sat with her parents in their kitchen, watching their retirement account balance drop to zero as Mitch's special project imploded. He said it was guaranteed. Bob kept repeating, staring at the screen. He showed us paperwork. Forged paperwork, Claire corrected gently. Just like the marriage license, just like the donation records. At the Milwaukee Sentinel, Sally put the finishing touches on her exposé. Her editor leaned over her shoulder, reading the draft. "This is solid work, Newton. But are you sure you want your name on it? Given your personal connection?" Sally's hand rested on her growing belly. "I'm sure. Some stories need to be told by someone who lived them." The FBI's investigation moved with surprising speed, aided by the mountain of evidence from multiple sources. Agent Rodriguez coordinated with the White Collar Crimes Division, building a case that went beyond simple embezzlement. "We've got mail fraud, wire fraud, conspiracy," she told her team. "And with the evidence from the youth center's accountant, we can prove exactly where the money went." Karen's meticulous records proved invaluable. Every missing donation, every forged signature, every diverted fund had been documented with quiet persistence. She'd built a paper trail that even the best defense lawyers would struggle to explain away. The teen social media campaign caught fire, drawing attention from local politicians and community leaders. Their stories put human faces to the cold numbers of financial fraud. "Remember Joey?" Marcus asked in one viral video. He was going to be the first in his family to go to college. Then they cut the SAT prep program. Now he's working at the gas station, trying to save up for community college. That's what they stole. Not just money, but futures. As Jen and Mitch continued their wedding preparations, seemingly oblivious to the gathering storm, multiple forces converged. Sally's article was set to run the morning of the ceremony. The FBI had their warrants ready. The tech company's board had scheduled an emergency shareholders meeting. But perhaps most devastating was the simple truth spreading through social media, carried by the voices of teenagers who refused to be silent victims. Their stories stripped away the veneer of sophisticated financial crime, revealing the human cost of greed and betrayal. In his office at New Hope, Hubert watched the pieces fall into place. The teens gathered in the recreation room, sharing their stories and supporting each other. Karen worked late into the night, ensuring every document was perfectly organized for the investigators. Sally's preliminary article drafts exposed the scheme with devastating clarity. Marcus appeared in the doorway, phone in hand. "Mr. S, we're trending on Twitter. People are listening." Hubert nodded, a mix of pride and sadness in his expression. "You've turned pain into power, Marcus. That's what real strength looks like." "We learned from you," Marcus replied. "You always said the truth would come out eventually." As the sun set on the last day before the planned wedding, Hubert stood at his office window. Below, teens gathered in small groups, sharing their stories with local news crews. Karen's office light still burned as she prepared the final documentation. His phone buzzed with messages from Claire about their parents' cooperation with investigators. The perfect storm wasn't just about justice or revenge. It was about truth, painful, necessary truth that would wash away the foundations of lies and leave room for something new to grow. Sarah, the young artist who'd lost her therapy program, had painted a mural on the recreation room wall, a phoenix rising from ashes, with the words "Hope Rebuilds" beneath it. "We're not victims," she told a reporter. "We're witnesses, and we're not staying quiet anymore." The stage was set. Tomorrow would bring its own revelations. But tonight, the truth was already free, carried on the voices of those who refused to be silenced by adult betrayals. The Grand Plaza Hotel buzzed with activity on Saturday morning. Crystal chandeliers cast prismatic patterns across the marble floors as hotel staff arranged white roses and golden ribbons throughout the ballroom. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, Milwaukee's skyline provided a backdrop worthy of the lavish affair Jen and Mitch had planned. Hubert sat quietly in the back row, watching guests file in. The envelope in his inner jacket pocket felt heavy with the weight of truth. Sally's investigative report, DNA test results confirming her pregnancy, and federal indictments ready to be served. "Are you sure you want to be here for this?" Sally whispered, settling into the seat beside him. Her investigative journalist's notepad was hidden discreetly in her purse, her pregnancy now visible beneath her formal dress. "I need to see it end," Hubert replied, his voice steady. "For the kids at the center, for my parents, for everyone they hurt." Across the room, he spotted his parents, Bob and Sonia, their faces drawn with the knowledge of what was coming. They'd spent the previous evening with FBI agents, confirming every detail of their involvement. Claire sat between them, her hand gripping their mother's arm, support and restraint in equal measure. The wedding planner bustled past, clipboard in hand. "Places everyone. The bride is ready." Hubert's gaze swept over the elaborate decorations, each flower and ribbon paid for with money meant for children's programs. The guest list included Milwaukee's elite, corporate executives, and social climbers, all unwitting participants in this final act of deception. The string quartet began playing Wagner's bridal chorus. Guests rose, turning toward the doors. Jen appeared in a designer gown that could have funded the center's tutoring program for a year. Her smile was radiant, triumphant, unaware that her carefully constructed facade was about to shatter. As she took her first step down the aisle, movement at the side doors caught Hubert's attention. FBI agents in formal wear began positioning themselves strategically around the room. Agent Rodriguez, dressed to blend with the wedding guests, caught his eye and gave a subtle nod. Mitch stood at the altar, beaming with the confidence of a man who thought he'd gotten away with everything. His best man shifted uncomfortably. He'd been interviewed by the FBI the day before and knew what was coming. Jen reached the halfway point of the aisle when the first agent moved. "FBI, everyone stay calm." The music screeched to a halt. Guests gasped as agents appeared at every exit, badges raised. "Mitchell Eaton," Agent Rodriguez's voice cut through the chaos. "You're under arrest for wire fraud, embezzlement, and bigamy." "What?" Jen spun toward Mitch, her bouquet falling forgotten to the floor. "Bigamy?" Jennifer Watson, another agent, approached her. "You're also under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud and embezzlement of charitable funds." The crowd erupted in confused murmurs. A photographer's flash captured the moment Mitch tried to run, only to be caught by two agents near the emergency exit. Jen stood frozen in her $1,000 gown as agents read her rights. "The evidence is irrefutable," Agent Rodriguez announced to the stunned guests. "Years of fraud, stealing from charitable donations meant for underprivileged youth. And yes, Mr. Eaton's existing marriage in Arizona makes this ceremony more than just a sham. It makes it a crime." Sally stood, her journalist's instincts taking over. "Don't forget the part where they emptied his parents' retirement accounts," she called out, "or how they threatened people into silence." Hubert watched as the truth unfolded before Milwaukee's social elite. The looks of shock and disgust on their faces reflected the betrayal he'd felt learning about the scheme. But now, something else mixed with the pain, relief, justice. Claire approached him as the agents led Jen and Mitch away. "You okay?" "I will be," he said, watching his former wife's white dress disappear through the hotel's service entrance. "The kids at the center will have their programs back. That's what matters." 3 months passed like a slow exhale after holding your breath too long. The youth center's halls gradually filled again with the sounds of programs returning, thanks to the restitution payments ordered by the court. Hubert stood in the doorway of the newly reopened art therapy room, watching Ms. Rodriguez guide teens through their expressions of pain and healing on canvas. The room had been empty for months after the funding cuts. Now it vibrated with color and life. Karen Huynh approached, a stack of files in her arms. Her recent promotion to financial director came with an office upgrade, but she still preferred to work close to the action. "The first quarter reports are ready," she said, her quiet confidence a stark contrast to the uncertainty that had plagued the center during the fraud. "We're not just stable, we're growing." "Thanks to you," Hubert replied. "Your documentation made this possible. We all did our part." Karen smiled, then grew serious. "Your parents are here. They're waiting in the conference room." The walk to meet them felt longer than usual. Through the conference room's glass walls, Hubert could see Bob and Sonia McKee sitting close together, looking smaller than he remembered from Sunday dinners that now seemed a lifetime ago. Claire was there too, standing by the window. She'd taken on the role of family mediator, working tirelessly to help their parents understand and make amends. "The bankruptcy paperwork is finished," Bob said as Hubert entered. "The house is sold. We're moving into a small apartment next week." Sonia reached for her son's hand. "We're so sorry, Hubert. We got caught up in the promises, the dream of a secure retirement." We never thought about the kids who would suffer. Hubert's voice was gentle but firm. About what your silence cost. That's what keeps me awake at night, Bob admitted. Not the money we lost, the children we hurt by staying quiet. Claire moved to stand behind their parents. They've been volunteering here twice a week. Mom's been helping with the literacy program, Dad with maintenance. Small steps, but sometimes good people make terrible choices, Sonia said softly. But that doesn't mean we can't find our way back. That's what you always taught the kids here, isn't it? Hubert looked at his family, broken but trying to rebuild. It's not about erasing the mistake, he said. It's about what you do after. Down the hall, Marcus's voice carried from the tutoring room where he helped younger teens with their studies. The same boy who'd first warned Hubert about Jen was now headed to college on a scholarship, turning his own pain into purpose. 1 year later, the youth center's expansion ceremony drew a crowd that spilled out of the new multipurpose room. Local news cameras captured the moment as Hubert approached the podium, the center's fresh paint and expanded facilities a testament to renewal. In the front row, Sally sat with her infant daughter, her press badge replaced with a consultant's ID. She joined the center's media team, helping teens learn to tell their own stories. Beside her, Karen arranged papers for the donor presentation that would follow, her organizational skills now focused on growing programs rather than tracking fraud. A year ago, Hubert began, this center faced its darkest hour. Programs were cut, trust was broken, and the future looked uncertain. He paused, looking out at the faces before him, teens, staff, supporters, and family. But from betrayal, we built something stronger. The new building stretched behind him, its walls recently painted with murals designed by the art therapy students. Each image told a story of transformation. Phoenixes rising, bridges being built, hands reaching out to help others up. These walls now stand as proof that trust, once broken, can be rebuilt into something even more beautiful, Hubert continued. Our programs haven't just been restored, they've expanded. Where we once offered sanctuary, we now offer opportunity. Where we provided hope, we now provide futures. In the audience, Bob and Sonia McKee sat with Claire, their expressions a mix of pride and lingering regret. They'd become fixtures at the center, channeling their retirement years into volunteer work rather than golf courses. Karen caught Hubert's eye from her seat, offering a warm smile. Their weekly financial meetings had gradually evolved into coffee dates, then dinners. A slow, careful rebuild of trust neither had expected. They took their time, both knowing too well the cost of rushing into trust without foundation. After the ceremony, as families explored the new facilities, Marcus approached Hubert in the recreation room. The lanky teen who'd first spotted trouble in the parking lot now stood tall in his college sweatshirt, acceptance letter framed in the center's new success wall. Remember when I told you about Mrs. S in the parking lot? Marcus asked, watching younger teens play basketball in the new court. I felt bad keeping that secret, but look what you built from that truth, Mr. S. You taught us that sometimes the hardest truth leads to the best outcome. Hubert surveyed his reconstructed family, the teens shooting hoops and doing homework, Claire helping their parents set up for the evening celebration, Karen reviewing plans for next year's expansion, Sally's daughter crawling after a basketball while her mother laughed. The price of trust, he told Marcus, is being willing to rebuild when it breaks, and having the wisdom to recognize who's worth rebuilding with. A group of teens gathered around the new music room, their voices rising in an impromptu harmony. The sound carried through the halls, mixing with laughter from the art room and cheers from the basketball court. It was more than noise. It was the sound of hope drowning out the echoes of betrayal. Sarah, now leading the art therapy peer group, had painted words above the center's new entrance. Trust breaks, hope rebuilds. Below it, a guest book filled with signatures of lives touched and transformed by the center's work. Your next group's waiting, Marcus reminded Hubert, gesturing to the counseling room where new teens sat, ready to begin their own journeys of trust and transformation. Hubert nodded, straightening his tie. The weight of betrayal had lifted, replaced by the lighter but equally serious responsibility of rebuilding. As he walked toward the counseling room, He passed Karen heading to her office, their shared smile holding the promise of slow-grown trust. The center hummed with life, not just surviving betrayal, but transcending it. In every room, every program, every face, the message was clear. Family isn't about blood or marriage or legal documents. It's about who stands with you when the truth comes out, who helps you rebuild from the ashes of betrayal, who turns too good for your own good from an accusation into a strength. The laughter of children and families filled the new building, each sound a note in the symphony of hope that had risen from the ruins of broken trust. It wasn't just a happy ending. It was a new beginning, built on stronger foundations than before. Epilogue, 5 years later. The morning sun streamed through the windows of New Hope Youth Center's executive office, where Hubert Salazar reviewed the latest expansion proposals. At 40, his temples had grown silver, but his eyes retained their warmth. A wall of achievements behind his desk told the story of the center's transformation. Awards for community service, newspaper clippings about successful programs, and photos of graduates who'd broken cycles of poverty and pain. Karen Salazar, they'd married 2 years ago in a small ceremony at the center, knocked on his open door. The reporter from the Chronicle is here for the follow-up story. The young journalist waiting in the conference room wasn't interested in the center's success, though. Her notebook was already open to questions about the scandal that had transformed New Hope from a struggling youth center into a model of institutional resilience. "You're here about Jen and Mitch," Hubert said, settling into a chair. "They're being released next month," the reporter confirmed. "Early parole for good behavior." People want to know what happened after the headlines faded. Hubert exchanged glances with Karen. They'd received the notification last week. Both Jen Watson and Mitchell Eden would complete their 3-year sentences at the Federal Correctional Facility in Minnesota. The story didn't end with their conviction, Hubert began. The ripples touched everyone involved. Through court records and victim impact statements, the full scope of their scheme had emerged. Over 2 years, they'd embezzled more than $2.8 million from TechVance's charitable giving program. The money had funded their lavish lifestyle, luxury cars, exotic vacations, designer clothes, and finally, the infamous wedding that never was. Mitch's first wife in Arizona came forward after the arrest, Karen added, consulting a file. Revealed a pattern of financial fraud dating back to his college days. That's why he'd run to Milwaukee, changed jobs, started fresh. The reporter's pen scratched across paper. And Ms. Watson? What happened to her after sentencing? She wrote letters at first, Hubert said, trying to explain, to justify. Said she felt trapped by suburban life, by what she called my obsession with saving everyone, but her. The letters stopped when she realized I wouldn't respond. Through their attorneys, they'd learned that Jen had earned her GED in prison, then started teaching other inmates basic computer skills. Mitch had been less productive. 3 disciplinary incidents for running gambling schemes among fellow inmates. The restitution payments continue, Karen explained. They'll be paying back the stolen money for decades. Every cent goes to youth programs, not just here but across the state. Their debt became others' opportunity. The center's new building stood as testament to that transformation. The original structure now housed administrative offices and basic programs, while the expansion offered specialized services, mental health counseling, career training, family support services. "What about your parents?" the reporter asked. The court records show they lost everything. Hubert's expression softened. They found something better than retirement savings. Purpose. Bob and Sonia McKee had indeed lost their financial security, but their volunteer work at the center had evolved into part-time paid positions. Bob ran the building maintenance training program, teaching teens practical skills while keeping the facility in shape. Sonia coordinated the senior mentorship program, matching retirees with teens who needed stable adult guidance. They live in a small apartment now, Hubert said, but they're happier than they were in the big house. They found meaning in helping others avoid the mistakes they made. Claire had turned her experience into a career, earning a counseling degree and specializing in helping families recover from financial fraud. Her support groups met weekly at the center, turning victims into advocates. And Sally Newton? The reporter's pen paused. She broke the story, but then seemed to disappear. A smile crossed Hubert's face. He gestured to a family photo on his desk, a gathering at the center's 4th anniversary celebration. Sally stood proudly with her daughter Emma, now a precocious 5-year-old who spent afternoons in the center's new childcare program while her mother ran the expanded media department. Sally took the skills that exposed the fraud and turned them into tools for change, Karen explained. Our teens learn investigative journalism, digital storytelling, media literacy. They're telling their own stories now, preventing others from becoming victims. The center's success had inspired similar programs nationwide. Hubert traveled occasionally to consult with other organizations, sharing the lessons learned from betrayal and rebuilding. Marcus Thompson is one of our biggest success stories, Hubert said, pointing to a recent graduation photo. The teen who first spotted Jen in the parking lot? He's finishing law school now, specializing in nonprofit law. Says he wants to protect organizations like ours from people like them. As if on cue, teens' voices filtered through the window, the afternoon program's beginning. Art therapy in one room, coding classes in another, career counseling down the hall. Each program represented money restored, trust rebuilt, futures reclaimed. What will you do when they're released? The reporter finally asked. Hubert and Karen shared another look. They discussed this extensively. Nothing, he said simply. Their stories stopped being part of ours a long time ago. The truth was, New Hope had grown beyond its origin story. The scandal that could have destroyed it had instead revealed its strongest foundations. The teens who refused to be silent victims. The staff who chose integrity over convenience. The community that rallied around truth. We learned that betrayal doesn't have to define you, Karen said. It's the rebuilding that tells your real story. Later that evening, after the reporter left, Hubert walked the center's halls. The walls displayed art from Ms. Rodriguez's therapy classes, images of transformation, healing, hope. Sarah, the former student who'd painted their first Phoenix mural, now ran her own art therapy sessions for younger teens. In the new family counseling wing, Bob and Sonia McKee wrapped up their evening support group. They'd found a way to turn their shame into service, their regret into redemption. The computer lab hummed with activity as Sally guided teens through their digital journalism projects. Emma sat nearby, helping by drawing pictures for the teens' stories. The little girl who'd been born amid scandal now thrived in the community built from its ashes. Karen joined Hubert in their shared office, where they reviewed the day's successes and challenges. Their relationship had grown slowly, deliberately, built on a foundation of shared values and careful trust. The federal prosecutor called, she said. Mitch tried to pitch another investment opportunity to his cellmate's family. They've added 6 months to his sentence. Hubert shook his head. Some people never learned, never changed. But their choices no longer had power here. Through the window, he could see Claire arriving for her evening support group. She'd turned her own pain into a profession, helping others navigate the complex emotions of familial betrayal. The center's doors would close soon for the night, but tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, new stories of transformation. The betrayal that had nearly destroyed them had instead taught them all a profound truth. Family isn't defined by blood or marriage or legal documents, but by who stands beside you when everything falls apart, and who helps you build something better from the pieces. Marcus's law school graduation invitation sat on Hubert's desk, along with a note. Thanks for teaching me that truth matters more than comfort. Some lessons change lives. As Hubert and Karen left the office that evening, they passed the words Sarah had painted above the entrance years ago. Trust breaks, hope rebuilds. Below it, new additions tracked the center's growth. 5 years of expanded programs, thousands of lives touched, countless stories of redemption. The sound of teenage laughter echoed from the recreation room, where a new generation of kids found safety and support. They didn't know the full story of betrayal and redemption that had shaped this place. They only knew that here, they could trust, heal, and grow. In the end, that was the greatest victory over betrayal. Not the justice served or the money restored, but the proof that from the ashes of broken trust, something stronger could rise. New Hope Youth Center stood as testament to that truth. its walls echoing not with whispers of past betrayals, but with the sounds of futures being built. Jen and Mitch's impending release was just another chapter in a story the center had long since outgrown. They would return to a world where their names were footnotes in old news articles, while the institution they tried to destroy had transformed their greed into a foundation for others' growth. That perhaps was the truest justice, the kind that turns poison into medicine, betrayal into strength, and broken trust into unshakable hope. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen, and I'll see you there.